Did you know that you, me, every person has a built-in success filter? And that unless that filter is aligned and set for the desired outcome of the changes that you want to make, whether it's in your life or in your organization, those new activities, the habits, the behaviors that are needed to achieve that outcome, they won't stick. In this video, I want to share with you what is that success filter, why it matters, and what you can do to align yours and your team's filter to ensure healthy, sustainable changes that help you grow your organization. We all have a mental model of ourselves. Your mental model reflects your beliefs, both conscious and unconscious, your values, the way you perceive the world, the way you see and perceive yourself. It determines what you pay attention to and what you ignore. Your mental model also influences not only the way you see yourself, but the way you perceive others see you. Have you ever heard yourself when confronted with a new activity or watching someone else do something, a particular activity or role or responsibility? Oh, I'd love to do that, but I just can't see myself doing it. I have that when it comes to skydiving. I cannot see myself jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. Or maybe it's vice versa. You are invited to a situation, take on a new role or responsibility, engage in a new activity, and almost immediately you can see yourself doing and engaging in that activity or that behavior, and you just jump right in with full confidence. That's your success filter in action in both situations. Before we engage in any new activity, we automatically and often unconsciously assess how the new activity aligns with our mental model and the perception we have of our capabilities, our perceived capability. The late Albert Bandura, a psychology professor at Stanford University, identified the importance of perceived capability, self-efficacy, over 40 years ago. His research showed how a person's perceived capability, self-efficacy, determined whether they would engage in any activity, the level of perseverance they had when learning and engaging in new activities, and their ability to problem solve in that new situation. And all of that is still true today. Perceived capability, self-efficacy, is yours and everyone's. It's our built-in success filter. It determines any actions we take and the action we won't take. It works like this. You encounter a new situation. Maybe a recent change in your organization will require you to work with new people, or use a new piece of technology, or take on new roles and responsibilities. You unconsciously, to a certain extent consciously, pass all of the information about the event and its expectations through that perceived capability filter. If, in your assessment, your perceived capability is high, you can envision yourself being successful. You can envision yourself in that new situation, engaging in those activities, then you're likely to step forward and move toward those new activities. However, if your perceived capability is low, and it can be low for a variety of reasons, maybe your beliefs about the situation, or your beliefs about your learning capability, or previous experience with a similar situation. Perceived capability is always context sensitive. This means that your level of perceived capability is different for different situations and different activities. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute when we talk about how to raise perceived capability. But in that situation, if it is low, it's unlikely that you're going to engage in any of the activities or behaviors or work that's required to move that change forward. It's also likely, if your perceived capability is low, that you'll filter out the information related to moving toward that new activity. I'm curious what your experience is when your perceived capability has been low versus when you felt that confidence in your ability to move towards something new and your perceived capability was high. Right in the comments section below, what has been your experience with it? Perceived capability outweighs any perceived benefits of the change. It's more important than training. Research has shown, and I've seen this in my own practice, that even when people have the knowledge and skills, if their perceived capability is low, they don't engage in the behavior. In one organization that I was brought in to help, everyone had been trained on the new technology. Everyone knew how to use the new technology, but they weren't using it. And that was because their perception of their ability to do their work and engage with the clients and use that technology were out of alignment. Their perceived capability was too low, and more training wasn't going to help. The correlation between self-efficacy and performance can't be overstated. Heidi Grant Halverson, in her book, 8 Motivational Challenges, describes self-efficacy, perceived capability, as a type of confidence. Not an over-the-top confidence, but the type of confidence that gives you a willingness to let go and take the risk of moving towards something new and different. And in a review of hundreds of studies, she found that the correlation between self-efficacy and a person's likelihood of success is about 0.34. Now, if you think, that doesn't sound very high, compare that to the correlation between job aptitude and success, which is 0.19. So you can see, perceived capability matters. And in my research on readiness, I found that perceived capability accounted for almost 50% of the readiness of the people to adopt the new technology. The impact of perceived capability on your organizational change success is why you need to understand it and build assessing and raising it into your transition activities. You need to make the time and space to elevate and ensure that the perceived capability of yourself and your team members is high enough to sustain the activities necessary to achieve and maintain the desired outcome. The good news, perceived capability is not static. We can raise our perceived capability. We can reset our success filters, and we can help others around us reset theirs toward adopting new activities and achieving that desired outcome. So let's talk about 3 strategies that can help you and could help your team raise their perceived capability. Alone, each one isn't enough, but together they provide a powerful way of enabling change and building the confidence needed. The first one, socialization. This is the process of raising awareness for the change. Socialization allows people to understand the problem, get used to the idea of making a change. It's through the socialization, the internalization, that we create meaning, that we begin to align with the change. And in a previous video, I talked about the importance of adhering to the law of change and why we need to create that time and space for people. I'll put the link to that in the show notes below. The second strategy, modeling. This is the process that we engage in when we watch and listen to others who are similar to us and have gone through the experience. Modeling evokes a very powerful process called vicarious learning. I have an upcoming video specifically on engaging vicarious learning through modeling as a strategy to build the confidence and commitment needed to adopt those new activities. Number 3, experience. That's the last and most powerful way to increase perceived capability. There's nothing like getting your hands on the new software or touring that new office to help change seem less unfamiliar and less intimidating. This experience isn't just what comes after the training. It's the experience they have before the training. It's the experience we gain during the training. And then it's the time and space to continue to develop the experience and the expertise and begin to live that new role, use that new technology at a comfort and competence that feels internalized for us and for any individual. Okay, so those are 3 ways that you can begin to raise perceived capability for yourself and to help your team raise their perceived capability. One last thing. It's easy to misinterpret low perceived capability as resistance to change. And it's a mistake I see leaders make regularly, but it's not resistance. Low perceived capability is not resistance, and treating it as if the person is resistance leads to all kinds of unhelpful actions that can stall your change efforts and reduce your organization's capacity for change. Raising perceived capability requires shifting your perspective, working with a readiness mindset, and helping people to see themselves and feel the confidence to engage with those new activities, to shifting their perception of themselves as they engage with confidence and persevere to the full adoption of those new activities. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you found this video helpful, and let me know your experience with perceived capability. I'll see you soon.